All right, everybody, come on in, come on in. Welcome back to another episode where Maggie and Lucy, Maggie Lou, Cagney and Lacey, Kid and Play, Thelma and Louise, Ebony and Ivory, whatever you want to call us. We are the founding leaders and teachers of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman. We just wrapped up a session with the ladies. We teach ladies of all ages about elegance, etiquette, and femininity. And for our way of giving back to the community, we like to come on here with you all twice a week and give you our take on relationship content as older women teaching the young. I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher. You may know me from my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. Lucy, please introduce yourself and let us know what are we reacting to today.
Hi, Maggie. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in. So, yeah, I'm Lucy, also known as Lucasely20. I have a channel in YouTube, and the content is mainly this year has been changed to things that impact us women after a certain age, and also things about topics about etiquette and elegance. And the topic today is how we women, if you don't watch it, we emasculate our men. And I think the reason I thought about this topic was because on our last session, I think one of the red flags was women emasculating men. And this one goes, we see the perspective of a man telling us how they feel with certain things. I think it's important to us as a wife. The last thing I want to do is to do something hurtful to my husband. And sometimes we make mistakes. So in a selfish way, it's kind of a refresher, a reminder for me not to do some of those things that sometimes we don't think that they impact our men, but they do.
Absolutely. So whether it's a refresher or you're hearing this for the first time, come on in. Here are your disclaimers. We are going to be reacting to this video. It's about a 20-minute video. If you would like to watch it without our commentary, I always link it in the description. We will play, pause, give you our feedback. And then, of course, we always like to know what you all hear in the chat. Disclaimer number 2, we are traditional women with traditional values. We believe in man and woman, husband and wife, boy and girl, mom and dad. If you want to do something different, that's fine. Just do it over there because you probably won't be happy over here. With that being said, let's go ahead and share our screen. We see you all coming in. Hello, Jurgen. Hello, Lady C. All right, let's see what we have for today.
Welcome back to the Man Talk Show. Connor Beaton here. Today, we're going to be talking about the main ways that women emasculate the men that they date, the men that they're with, the men that they marry. And oddly enough, today's episode is brought to you by the questions of women. I'm actually not doing this episode because guys have asked for it. I'm doing this episode because there have been a number of women over the last few months that have actually reached out and said, hey, my ex-boyfriend, my ex-husband, my current boyfriend, my current husband, they tell me that I do things to emasculate them. Can you tell me what I'm doing? Or can you tell me some of the ways in which men actually feel emasculated. And so kudos to you, ladies, for reaching out. I'm going to give a little bit of a list and sort of break them down. Before I get into that, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think, whether you're a woman or a man, what do you think that women do sometimes to emasculate their partner? I'll probably do a video in the future that will talk about what you as a man do to move women out of their feminine, or to not defeminize them, because I don't think that that's actually a thing. I don't know if we have a word for emasculate, effeminate. I don't think that there is that thing, but to move women out of their feminine and more into their masculine. So I'll do a follow-up video on that. But if you're watching on YouTube, comment below. Don't forget to man it forward, share, and subscribe. All right, let's dive in. Number one, biggest thing that I see is withholding sex. And I'm going to explain this. I'm not saying that you should have sex even when you don't want to. I'm talking about when something's going on in the relationship, there's conflict, there's some disconnection. Maybe a man isn't, sort of showing up in the way that his partner wants, that you want as his girlfriend or his wife, and you start to withhold sex. So sex in a relationship is not a bargaining tool. It is not something that you should use almost ever to punish the other person. It is not something that you should use to change behavior. But the reality is that pretty much all women know how important sex is to men. And I hear some women saying things like, well, why do men care so much about sex? And there's usually a complaint without a real depth of understanding. Most women know sex is very important, but they don't really understand why it's so important. And my experience is that for most men, of course, there's sort of the drive and the desire, and there's, just a sort of general hunger for it. But underneath the surface, sex is a very intimate piece. And so for a lot of guys, sex is a place with his partner, with his girlfriend, with his woman, with whoever, where he can express a part of himself that he normally doesn't get to express out in society, out in culture. And it's also, and this is a very important piece, a place where a lot of men feel the closest to the women that they're with. And it's a place where there's different expressions of love that can come forward. However, in some ways, because women know that sex is so important for men, they also know that if I take this away from you, if I withhold it, if I put conditions on it, then I have more control in the relationship. And that might be happening consciously or unconsciously. I think oftentimes I like to give the benefit of the doubt that's happening unconsciously. But this brings me to the quote by Oscar Wilde, which I absolutely love. He said, "Everything in life is about sex, except for sex. Sex is about power." And that's really what's happening when you are withholding sex in a relationship actively. You are taking control over some of the power in the relationship, over a large portion of power in the relationship. And you're saying, I'm going to take this seat of superiority because you're not doing what I want you to do, because you're not behaving how I want you to behave, because you're not showing up in the way that I want you to show up. You're not doing the work that I want you to do. You're not taking care of the things that I want you to take care of. And so I'm going to withhold this very meaningful thing. So that's number one. Number two.
All right, everyone. So we're coming in hot. Let's talk about the intimacy. All right, so I want to give a little bit of background. So what Lucy and I teach, from traditional values, we believe in women's femininity is our superpower, ladies. So when you look at femininity can only exist if masculinity is that polar opposite, right? You have that polarity. So this is what we teach the women. There are certain behaviors that are more masculine. There are certain behaviors that are more feminine. And I do love, especially last week, we talked about an episode where the biology of man and woman is something that we cannot escape. So this is not a debate whether or not or why, it just is. And I think it says a lot that number one on his list was the intimacy part. But what I heard when he was speaking is, ladies, especially if you're married, this is the one place that your husband, can come to for, expressing himself in this way. Why would you deny him that? This is also something very special that only you two get to experience. If you think about a man, and I'm not a man, but in the world, he's got to be, productive, he's got to be competitive, he's got to be all of these strong qualities. Do you provide a place for him where he can drop his shoulders and he can just relax and enjoy? I think where she was talking about weaponizing, where he was talking about using intimacy as a weapon, that's what you want to avoid, ladies. This is something, to me, either you are, all in or you're not. But playing that hot and cold game, using it as something to dangle in front of your man, I think that it's a game that you don't want to play, because ultimately you're going to lose. And I would just add, I know this was about intimacy, but I think when it comes to cooperativeness, emotions, anything that women use that's going to be I'll behave if you give me what I want. I think it's a matter of time before he says, you know what, men, I'm not going to put up with this. So that's what I would say about it. Lucy, what would you add?
I love that he looked at the aspect of control. Again, if you tend to be the controlling party in that relationship, it's just not becoming. In fact, the last thing you want to have is control in the bedroom. If he comes to you because he wants you, why not just go with the flow? I think I spoke going with the flow earlier today in our school. It was about something else, but I think that the more easygoing you are, especially when it comes to something so intimate, so precious that it's only him and you, I think that that is just the most lovely thing that you can do for your husband. I know that sometimes we get into these crazy arguments and just things, and then for us as women, we're like, well, he's not going to get it tonight. And it's like, are you serious? If he comes to you, even after an argument, if he comes to you and he starts being loving to you, why not? That's how he just, he made peace. And why not always have peace with your husband around, or your significant other?
I agree. All right. I see you all in the chat. I see the comments. We're going to go into number 2. Let us know what you all think.
Is withholding fun, withholding joy, withholding happiness. And so what can happen oftentimes in a relationship, again, is when a man and a woman, when they're, when you're having some conflict or challenge or disconnection, you can begin as a woman to disconnect from the feminine qualities of fluidity, of flow, of joy, of playfulness, of just being in the moment. And my wife does this all the time, pretty much every day, where she'll turn music on and she'll start dancing, or she'll just, break out in dancing and song. And it's like silly, but it's got this beautiful feminine quality to it that's so alluring and so attractive. And for a lot of women, what can happen is when conflict starts to arise, when disconnection starts to arise within the relationship, they can become much more rigid. They can become much harder. And this sort of playful, fluid part of them that so many men are attracted to, right? Like if you are a woman dating a masculine man, that man, almost unequivocally, he might not use the words that I'm about to use, but he will be saying something along these lines. I am so attracted and drawn to the playful, feminine parts of you. When you're in this like flowy, fluid, playful, soft, joyful state, I'm so attracted to you. It's just like this magnetic pull that all of a sudden makes me desire you, want to be around you, want to be close to you. But for a lot of women, they've learned either in past relationships or growing up or in their current relationship to try and protect themselves, or to try and leverage withholding fun, withholding that joy and that fluidity and that feminine nature as a means of, again, behavioral changes, punishing, etc. And what happens is that that woman then will begin to check out of the relationship. If that goes on for long enough, and she doesn't shift out of it, or the relationship doesn't acknowledge it, she'll start to slowly drift out, because no woman wants to stay in this hyper rigid, hyper sort of cemented, concretized version of themselves. It's very hard and very combative and very attack oriented. So that's another way, and it's emasculating, because on the other side of that, when we as men can tell that you are withholding fun, that you're withholding this beautiful, playful energy, this energy that we're very attracted to, it can feel like we can't do anything to get you out of there, or that we have to compromise something that you're asking us for in order to have you soften, in order to have you relax into that state. And so it can feel very emasculating for a lot of men, because it's like, well, now you're making me responsible for whether or not you decide to have fun. And that goes into the stupidest saying of all time, which is happy wife, happy life. We're not going to go there. The next one.
All right. I absolutely love this one. So we're going to talk about fun. Ladies, are you fun, or are you a stick in the mud? I know for me, my natural personality errs on the silly side. I have to work to kind of get it in line, because I can be a little bit more charismatic than the moment calls for. But I'll tell you, that's one of my man's favorite qualities of mine. When I'm cooking and I'm not streaming, the music is on, I'm dancing, I may go in front of him and just do a twirl or do something, awkward. And, he's banging away at the keyboard or doing whatever he's doing. And he just looks up, and I'm having a silly moment, and he folds his arms and he just looks at me and he's like, what am I going to do with you? And I'm like, nothing at all. Do you have those moments of fun in your relationship? I think there's nothing better than seeing older couples, and they have those inside jokes, and they have those laughs, and they have those moments together that's just for them. Ladies, this is something that doesn't age. You can be fun at any age. One of the things that it's important for you all to remember, especially if you want a masculine man, we've said it before, his life is hard. His day is hard. And one of the things that my man told me is that after about 30, when a man has been trying to figure it out and he finally has gotten it together, he's looking for the easy way to do just about everything. Because if you are going to bring additional burden, and did you hear what he said about he has to try and get you out of that state? A man is not going to stop what he's doing being productive to help you fix your face. That's why we tell you, ladies, smile. You have no idea how disarming that is, how welcoming that is, how fun that can be. A smile, a wink, a flirt, anything. I think, unfortunately, in today's society, because we're trying to get away from man and woman, boy and girl, masculine and feminine, we're just people. We're just the same. We're just like robots or work machines. And I would argue, I don't think that's where you're your happiest, and it's definitely not the best for your relationship. So ladies, loosen up and have fun. What would you add, Lucy?
I agree, and it's that part of when men talk about being somebody's piece, being his piece. If he's always going to be walking on eggshells because he doesn't know what's going to cause you to react in a bad way, how peaceful is that? He comes to you and he sees you cleaning while you're playing the music, and I know that my husband, anytime I'm cleaning and I'm with my music, it just brings a smile to him. It's natural. They can't help it, because it's just that feminine thing that we're doing that they do not have. So they appreciate all that fun that you can bring into their lives.
Absolutely. All right. Kalissa's in here. She says, same, Maggie. I think I might be a little bit much. Sometimes I have to hold myself back. Shout out to you for the awareness. That's what Lucy and I were talking about in the finishing school, when going with the flow, whether it's an event or something. But ladies, those moments that you have alone with your man are precious and priceless. And that's where memories are made. It's the little moments. It's the mundane tasks. It's how you can just take a regular Tuesday and make it something fun. So ladies, if you've gotten feedback that you are difficult, that you are, domineering, that you're, hard to deal with, maybe you need to have a little bit more fun. Because I think when you try to challenge a man and, mean mug him competition, you're not going to get him to scale it up to come, challenge and tackle you. He's just going to leave you by yourself and find somebody who's just happy to be there and fun. Let's go back in.
Is being very controlling. So it's very emasculating, and this kind of goes in with another point that I have about mothering, which is a little bit different. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but being very controlling. So trying to overly dictate or control your man's behaviors, his actions, the things that he says, where he goes, who he hangs out with. This goes hand in hand with that withholding fun. Generally, what happens when a woman starts to become more and more rigid, and ladies, you've probably experienced this in a relationship, the level of controlling can go up and up and up and up and up. And my good colleague and friend Dewey Freeman says that where we control, we lack trust. Where we control, we lack trust. And so this can happen on a number of occasions, right? Maybe the trust has been broken. Maybe there's been a betrayal. Maybe there's been lies. Maybe there's just been, he's dropped the ball a number of times and you feel like you have to step in and control. And I get that. I'm not saying that there aren't times where it feels like you have to sort of take control. What I'm talking about is when that's not necessary, when that's not needed. And you're operating in a way, sometimes from your own anxieties, sometimes from your own fears, sometimes from your own unwillingness to be vulnerable or be playful or be connected and intimate. You start to try and control. And the control is a mechanism that not only emasculates your partner, right? It emasculates the man who, wants to be able to provide, wants to be able to lead in some ways in the relationship, wants to be able to feel close to you and connected to you, but it makes him feel small, right? Whenever we are in the controlling position, we feel very big. We feel very powerful. And whenever we're in the controlled position, we feel very small. And so it's very common for a lot of women who enact this hyper controlling mechanism, which is very emasculating for a partner, right? Like, why didn't you take out the garbage when I told you to? Or how come you didn't take it out the way that I asked you to? Or why didn't you put the dishes in the exact way that I told you to? Or the bed isn't made this way? Or, why did you say that way? Or, whatever it is, you start to nitpick every single behavior, action, choice, speech that man says. And slowly he feels very constricted. So the most important thing to men, the most important thing to the masculine is freedom. And so slowly, as you become more and more controlling, it's emasculating him because he feels like he has less and less and less and less freedom. And this is a recipe for disaster in a relationship. It builds up resentment on both sides. Neither of you are happy. So that's another way that emasculation can happen. I only have a couple more, and then
All right, y'all, let's talk about this one. But first, I want to say thank you so much, Suave D, as always, so consistent. Thank you for the $10. He says, great job, ladies, as usual. And thank you for the compliment. That's very kind of you. All right, ladies, let's talk about control. I love that he said that the thing that is very important to a man, and we're here to learn and get better, is freedom. So ladies, if you think you are helping by henpecking him, by mothering him, by nagging him, you're actually pushing your man farther away. I'll give you all a little bit of story time, one time that I had to learn. But when he said that control comes from your own anxiety, ladies, this is a problem that you have to fix. When you try to control other people, that means you are so chaotic on the inside and you have no control of yourself. The only way you can hold on is by gripping that steering wheel and making sure everybody else does exactly what you need them to do. That's not attractive. That's not feminine. That's not going to help your relationship to grow. If you heard in that other point, he talked about being fluid, going with the flow. That is a very important feminine quality that a lot of modern women miss? Are you able to just relax and, like I tell the ladies that I talk to, do less and be more? So I'll give you all a little bit of story time. I'm always putting myself on the hot seat as a reformed modern woman. So I have a very masculine man. And here in Atlanta, we have regular lanes and then we have HOV lanes, the high occupancy vehicle, which means if there's two people in the car, you can take the fast lane. Well, because I'm usually by myself, when I used to drive a lot, I would always be in the regular lane waiting on everybody else. So when my man would take me out or we would go somewhere and he's driving, I was so excited that now we qualify for the fast lane, but he would just drive in whatever lane he wanted to drive in. I should have just kept my opinions to myself, but I touched the hot stove by kind of saying, there's an HOV lane over there. We can go in the fast lane. And without missing a beat, he looked at me and said, I know, and stayed in the same lane. And I was like, that is what one time in a row looks like, ladies. So yeah, after that, I hush, I appreciate the scenic journey, and we get there when we get there, how we get there. So look at your own behavior. If you have been doing things to tell your man how he should do every little thing, where he should go, stalking his social media, doing drive-bys, asking him about his friends, none of that is going to help you. All right, ladies, so let go of the control. What would you say, Lucy?
And the more relaxed and fluid you are, the more he's going to say, that's a secure woman. That's a woman I want in my life. That's a non-problematic woman. Because again, if you start seeing all these women that want to control every aspect of their boyfriends or husbands, there's really something not working with them. I can't imagine going into my husband's phone, my husband's social media. How much time do you have? I don't have time for that. I have other beautiful things to do in my home than to be, worried about what he's a grown man. He comes to me every night. He's with me every time. So, why am I going to get into his life? Let him be. He knows what he's doing. He's your husband. He's your boyfriend for a reason. Don't start trying to control him that way, because the minute that you start, the more he's going to say, I'm not liking this. And it's going to either push back, or he's just going to quietly ghost you. And that's that.
And that's that. All right, let's see what you all are saying in the chat. Killis is loving it. All right, Jurgen says, nowadays, women are always trying to be dominant, and that doesn't work for me. Yes, ladies, this is only going to work with a certain caliber of men, and I promise you, it's not the men that you want. You think you are winning. You may win the battle. You will ultimately lose the war. Remember what the man said, and this channel is Man Talks, and it's linked in the description. A very important character trait for men is freedom. And if you think about it, they have worked and struggled and toiled to have that freedom, to call the shots, to live independently as an able-bodied masculine man that we are all attracted to. So don't take that away from him, or don't try to. The condemned is listening with his eyes and ears. Killa says that's not fun. You don't get it. It's so much better to let the man lead. It's the best thing ever to be led. It's very freeing. I agree. And ladies, like my man says, you're already feminine. Just stop fighting it. Allow yourself. You chose him for a reason. You were attracted to him for a reason. Swab D says, dominant women are a major turn off for me. I need a woman who is soft, agreeable, and stays in her lane, literally over here. But yes, ladies, you get a lot more by getting on his program, or you can do your own thing. I understand not everybody is going to be in a relationship. That's fine. The condemned says, the moment a woman tries to give me orders and she's not paying me, it's an issue. Eek. Lady C says, true. Maybe you all have realized some of these behaviors in yourself. Cheryl is laughing. Clotis says, my sister and I were having this conversation earlier today. Most women have no clue what's actually going on, and it makes sense because they don't have to. Maybe for the short term, But what I am experiencing is that women are having their wake-up call long past the point where they can do something about it. And it's sad to see. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. So ladies, be your own eyes and ears, and think about your behavior, and think about the feedback that you've gotten, and think about the way the men that you want have responded to you. Maybe you haven't been the feminine woman that he wants. Almanize is watching as well. Clotis says, life makes everyone masculine, males and females alike. It's tough, but it seems like in the last 10 or 15 years, it went from being thankful to being deserving. Maybe we're talking about women feeling entitled. Now, I will say this. The modern world that we live in, it's fast-paced, it's competitive. We have all of these distractions, and people are living more independently and think we don't need each other. I still believe we're better together, not equal, just equally valued. But yes, ladies, if these are qualities that you want to have, if you want to attract and keep the masculine man of your dreams, you're going to have to self-correct, because the masculine man, he's going to tell you one time in a row, if he tells you. I remember talking to Thane, and he said, if I even have to say it, it's already a problem. So we will leave it at that and continue on.
Then I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Big one is trying to change you as a man, right? There's a saying that I think I said on a podcast recently, that men try to fix problems and women try to fix the person. And so oftentimes what will happen in a relationship is a man will, try and he'll hear his wife or his girlfriend is upset. She's got some issue at work or with her parents, and he will be thinking about, how do I fix this problem for her? What do I do? Or she'll be saying, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I don't like the way that I look in this dress. And so he'll think about, how do I help her solve this problem of losing 10 pounds or fitting into this dress, right? He'll fix it on the problem. But for women, what will happen, this is just a generality, but I've found it to be true most of the time, women will focus in on the person. So a man might say, I don't like my job, or I want to lose 10 pounds, or whatever it is. And she'll start to try and change his behavior. She'll start to try and change him. She'll start to focus in on his actions, his choices, his behaviors, his likes, what he does, who he spends time with. And so she'll try and start to change him out of, right? They're both good intentions, out of either seeing where he could be better, where he's struggling, where he's hurting, where he's lonely, disconnected, whatever the case may be. But the more that you try and change the man that you're with, the more that he will feel emasculated, because the more that he will feel like, you don't love me for who I am. You are trying to get me to be a version of myself that you want. And so you don't actually accept who I am. You want me to become who you want me to be. And for a man, again, the masculine in us craves that freedom. And so that doesn't feel like a free choice. That doesn't feel like a direction that he can move very freely. And for a lot of guys, what will start to happen is they'll start to check out, because they'll feel like, oh, you're just trying to change me into who you want me to be. And so it can create a lot of tension, a lot of resentment, a lot of conflict within the relationship when a woman is, constantly trying to change him. And what's fascinating, and ladies, I love you because you always want to support your men. But I think this is one of the things that I see time and time again. I get so many questions from women saying, how do I get my man to do the work? How do I get my man to come out to your weekends? How do I get my man to read your book or tune into your podcast or whatever it is? And I always say the same thing, which is, stop trying to change him, and then maybe you'll have the answer. And for a lot of women, that's a very hard thing to hear, because most of the time you're trying to change your man because you see that he's in pain. You see that he's suffering. You see that he's hurting. You see that he's frustrated. And so when you can let go of trying to change him, you can actually start to see who he actually is and reflect that back. You'll actually be able to have deeper conversations with him about what he's struggling with and understand where he's at and why he's making the decisions that he's making. And to some degree, love where he's at. And when you stop trying to change the man that you're with, the man that you're with has the freedom to change. I really want that one to hit home. When you stop trying to change the man that you're with, the man that you're with has the freedom to change. He's got the air to breathe. For a lot of men, it is incredibly, they feel very encroached on when the woman that they're dating or married to has identified that they're struggling and then is just constantly peppering him, trying to get him to change. You got to go to therapy. You got to hire a coach. You need to, do this course or whatever it is, and constantly on him to change. Create invitations, create openings. Say, hey, I bought you this book that I thought you might like, or, I'd love to listen to this podcast with you, without the expectation of you need to be somebody different in order for me to be happy with you. So that's the next one. There's a couple more.
All right, ladies, let us unpack this one. Are you trying to change your man? Have you tried to change your man? Ladies, I would love for you to do an assignment. You don't have to say so in the chat, but think back on your relationships and think about a relationship that you treated as a project. Oh, he's got great potential if we just fix this and do that and do that. Where is that man today? Probably just like he was when you met him. So like the man said, if you want your man to change, stop trying. Either he is or he isn't. We have to make sure that when we have our husbands, our men, we accept them as they are. Because honestly, think about how you would feel if someone treated you as a project. I'm going to tweak this. I'm going to tweak that. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. How much resistance would you feel? So oftentimes when I talk to ladies and they have all these notions in their head about their relationship or their man, and we're going to go on trips and we're going to do this and it's going to be wonderful. And I end up asking them, do you like him or do you like the idea of him? So you want to think about, ladies, like one of my girlfriends asked me before my wedding, if nothing changes and this is what you have for the rest of your life, are you okay with that? So you need to think about that, ladies, because again, that freedom that's so important to a masculine man, you're not going to get the outcome that you want by trying to change him. Let him be. And like I tell the ladies, you can accept with grace or you can exit with grace, but you cannot change a man. What would you add, Lucy?
I agree. And I think a couple of live sessions ago, I said, that the dating part, that's why the dating part is so important, because the man that you meet, the second, the third, and the first, second, third date, fourth date, he's going to continue to be, if it's a good man, a good quality man, he will continue to be that same man, beginning, middle, and end. So the fact that you're trying to change him after so many, if maybe you're in a relationship with that man for a couple of years, or you're in a marriage, you're married to that man, and you're thinking to try to change the man that he was when you first met him, it's not going to happen. In fact, they're going to shut down, and they're going to create a wall, and it's going to be just a marriage or a relationship just because of comfort and not because you like the man that you fell in love with, without any changes necessary.
Absolutely. All right. So let me see what you all are saying in the chat. But ladies, ask yourself, if you have a marriage on paper and you're complaining, he doesn't talk to me, he doesn't open up, he doesn't really spend time with me, he comes home late, he's always out with his friends. Maybe you're doing some of these things that he wants to get away from. We have Natasha here. She says, I'm listening intentionally and with appreciation. Thank you, dear. She says, you may want to include older teen sons and young adult sons as part of the conversation as well. Emasculating mothering is to be avoided. Yes, ladies, I don't know what it is, this quality about us. Maybe we mean well, but we think we know better than everyone around us. And I have had, as a boy mom with two teenagers, I have I have had them flat out tell me, Mom, stop babying me. So when you get that feedback, ladies, just act on them. We all learn. Some of us learn the hard way, but life is here to learn and teach us. Scorpio is here. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Clotis says, I think it comes from a lack of fathers in the home. Young girls need to see their fathers be men. For the better or worse, they can't rely on preconceived notions. I agree. I think there's a lot of women telling other women what men want, but there are no men around and they don't have men themselves. There's a lot of men in my family. Lucy and I both come from, immigrant nuclear families, and both have, combined over 40 years of marriage experience. So I would just say this, and we've said it before, ladies, consider the source when you're taking marriage and relationship advice. Look at the person who's speaking and just ask yourself if you would trade places with them, and then act accordingly. Clotis says that's not who we are. Yeah, I know. Sometimes it hurts. It's an ouch, but sometimes we have to say the truth. All right. Let us continue on. Jürgen is putting his stake in the ground. Jürgen is our Bjorn. He says, is anybody trying to change me? Never. So we hear you loud and clear. And Killis is saying, that's why we teach. Yeah, Lucy and I want to come. We're here twice a week for you all and give you our perspective. Unfortunately, we have a lot of ladies whose mothers didn't teach them how to be good women to good men. So maybe we are the missing matriarchs in your life. Clotis says you just recently had a friend that got a raise at his job, told his girlfriend, and she told him he needs to make more money, and he's flabbergasted because she wants a Range Rover. I think you leave her right there to get her own Range Rover. All right, let us continue. Let's see what else you all are saying at the chat. The Condemned says, that's another mistake many women make today. They will push and pull a man to change. And when he does change for her, the woman will say he changed, and then she will leave. That's tragic. Ladies, let me skip to the end of the story for you. A man has to change on his own or not. You have to accept him, because here's what's going to happen. If you have the caliber of man that you can nag him to death to do what you want, number one, you're not going to respect him over time. And number two, he will resent you. Because remember, the man said that freedom is so important to men. So if he feels like he's living underneath your domineering rule, he will quietly resent you for it. And that's where you see a lot of those behaviors. He may be there physically, but he is absolutely checked out. Even if you're right, you can suggest some things, of course. Hey, babe, have you considered this? And then you leave him to make his own decisions. Because if he does what you say and it's right, he will resent you for it. If it's wrong, he will blame you for it. So either way, ladies, it's a lose-lose situation. So part of the vetting process, this is why we say only date men that you see are husband potential. Because if you're trying to build a bear and fix somebody, then you're going to have to continue that throughout the relationship. Believe me, you're not going to want to do that, and you will lose respect for him. So do not waste your time. Allow a man to go through that forming process, to fail, to try, to get up, to hurt, to be hungry, to bleed, to work extra. Let him do that and become the man that he is, and then present himself to you, and you accept or you exit. That is it. He changes on his own, not because you said so. All right, let us continue.
Or I talked about mothering your partner. I think, I'll just touch on this briefly. The mothering piece is interesting because it's very much about maturity, right? Again, it's taking this position of superiority. I'm more mature than you are. I know better than you do. And so I have to parent you. Now, are there dynamics where the man is very childish and doesn't have manners or doesn't take care of things, or doesn't know? Like, I grew up in a house, I'll give you an example. I grew up in a household where cleaning and cleanliness was not a priority. Let me just put it that way. Okay, cleaning and cleanliness, not a priority. Didn't have to make my bed in the morning. The kitchen was pretty much always a mess. There was some minimal vacuuming that would happen once a week. The basement was always a disaster. Like, it just was not a clean house, period, full stop. And that was always a problem for a lot of women that I dated. And the challenge is that they were always trying to mother me. And I always resisted and rejected that versus finding my own way to like the value in having a clean, organized space. And so what can happen is, and if if a man is acting childish, and his wife starts to step into this more mothering oriented position, it will almost instantly desexualize the relationship. It'll almost always and very quickly kill the sexual connection within the relationship, or diminish it very, very strongly and sharply, because the man will start to feel like, oh, I'm a child, I'm a boy, I feel very young, which is not a sexual thing. And the woman will start to feel like his mother. So moving out of that, I'll talk about it in a different video, because that's not the point of this video. The next two are the.
All right. So we talked about that mothering, and I think I know better than, and I'm more mature than you. Ladies, we talked about biology last week, and yes, for a time, women do mature more quickly. That's why, back in the past, and I'm not trying to get us there, it wasn't uncommon for a young woman, 14, 16, to be able to run a house, to be able to take care of little siblings. We matured. Men take longer, but once they get there, they hold their position until the end. So don't let your advantage in your youth fool you into thinking you always know better. The other thing too, and I've learned this as a boy mom, men don't use all the words that we do. And sometimes ladies look at that and think, oh, they don't know, they don't get it. They absolutely do. They observe and they withhold their feedback until they see consistency. So men aren't just going to be, thinking something and then say it the way that we do. They will wait and they will pace themselves, because words matter. And men know that words have consequences. That's one of the things that we ladies, we just say whatever we want to. Men know that you can't just open your mouth and have a slick lip and just expect to sit there and everybody's like, well, okay, he said that. There are consequences for that. We talked about this last week, ladies, again, that pivotal age of 30. Lucy and I were both married at 30, so we didn't know what all the panic was about. But at 30 is when a man's disadvantage turns into his advantage. And ladies, that leverage, that advantage that you had, it precipitously drops. All right. So again, if you are fortunate enough to be a mother, you will even see this. There will be a time when your mothering moves into more of a support role, because like I tell the ladies, you don't know everything, and that's okay. What would you add, Lucy?
Yeah, for me, I can't relate to the part of maybe having children, because again, I don't have children, but I have seen so the difference between a man that has become the man on his own. He really doesn't need the woman to be telling him how to do things. He's already done it for all this time. So we're going to come in here and tell him how to live their lives when they've been living it along. And we are lucky enough that he chose us to be their wives or their significant other. And then we're going to try to mother them, to be their mothers. And I think I've done that with my husband, I think a couple of times, and that didn't go well. And especially when he's sick. He's been sick a couple of times, and I've had to do like the soup and, oh, baby, you feel, he's like, leave me alone. I am okay. I will be fine. So again, I tried, but I found out that that's the part that he doesn't want to seem weak, even with me. Bringing him his little soup and his little thing. No, he took care of his cold. He told me that he didn't need to be mothered, and that was it. I did it, I think, twice in, the 20 years that we've been together, and that was a long time ago. So again, let's not try to mother men, grown men. They already know what they're doing with their lives, and it's just, I don't know, it creates that resentment. It creates him not wanting to be around, because you're gonna just overwhelming with all that stuff. You, by the time that you're married to your man, should know what are the things that he doesn't like and the things that you like. Focus on the things that he likes and make him, make his life better with the things that he likes. Do not mother him, please.
Please, ladies. Yes, absolutely. Let's see what y'all are saying in the chat. Bert says, I look at it like this. There was something you liked about me when we met. So now why do you want to change me? Yes, ladies, you picked him. If you see something in the vetting stage that you're like, you know what, this is a deal breaker for me, exit with grace. But don't accept the good parts that you want and then sit there and try to make that man miserable. Let him go. Someone will appreciate him just as he is, and you find someone that meets your checklist of 34 items. Gillis is saying this isn't a problem for her. She's the opposite. Whatever you want to do, too easygoing. Understood. UFO Kamikaze is in the house. Absolutely. Let's see what else you all are saying in the chat. Clotis says femininity changes men. I don't know how and I don't know why, but it does. It's so true, ladies. And this is why we say we are not equal. We are equally valued, but we're better together. When I read Psych Hack's book, and he was talking about, unfortunately, the dating market today, because people have lived their lives so independently of each other. There used to be a time when people got together because they needed each other. I'm not saying you need to go back and churn butter or do anything like that, but so many people think, oh, I can do that myself. I don't need the other person. But one of the things that Psych Hack said in his book that men cannot buy or replace is that femininity. Ladies, does your husband feel your feminine presence? Does he feel like he's at home when he's with you? Or is it always something? You got a list of something to complain, something else for him to do. Something else is not right. You're upset about something. Or can you just be? And can you just let him be? All right, let's see. Yes, we're going to work on this in 2024. Thank you, UFO Kamikaze. Elsa says no to Build-A-Bears. Yeah, absolutely. If he's not the man for you, exit with grace. Don't waste your time because you don't have it to waste. UFO Kamikaze is talking about the son husbands. Yeah, that's a whole debacle. There's a reason the boys live with their father and they're better for it. You're better for it. All right, let's see what else you all are saying in the chat. Hello, Coach. Thank you so much for the support, Big Ben. We appreciate all of the men here. Absolutely. All right, so let us go back in.
The last two, which is demeaning men's activities. Demeaning men's activities. So, a guy wants to watch football or car racing. I love F1. I love, watching those types of sports, watching hockey, etc. And for a lot of guys, they feel emasculated when their partner is making fun of it, right? When their partner is devaluing the things that he likes and enjoys and doesn't understand why they're important for him, right? Imagine that, like, you as a woman really had some core interest, right? You're like super into yoga and all he did was shit talk it, right? You would feel put down, you would feel let down, you would not feel understood. But this is the experience that a lot of guys have when they're like, I really love football, or I really love watching the NHL, or I love watching soccer, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the activity is that he likes doing. I like going to the firing range, or I love racing my car. And if you as a woman are constantly putting that down, he's going to feel very emasculated in the sense that you are not going, he will feel like you do not understand a huge part of what he's interested in. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to like it. This doesn't mean that you have to take some massive interest in it. It simply means that you stop shit talking the things that he likes to do. Now, lastly, these.
All right, ladies, let's talk about talking smack. So, as we've been saying, men are who they are, and they have their hobbies, and their hobbies don't have to make sense to you. But this is a way that he decompresses, and you should allow him that. Why should you allow him that? Because then he will want to do that hobby around you. So many men have hobbies that take them away from home, take them away from their women, because we open our mouth and we say something slick because what we think we're doing is we're going to shame him into giving up that part of him and maybe spend more time with us. The opposite is true. The man is not going to give up his hobbies. He's just going to go do it over there. I'll tell on myself again. Early in our relationship, I remember there was something on TV. I don't know if it was a commercial or it was a movie or something where there was a man playing video games and his lady was next to him playing video games too. And they were all excited, doing the video game thing. And I made a comment and I said, why would anybody do that? And he said, and I quote, because she's smart. And I was like, oh, okay, so y'all, I'm telling y'all, I have bumped my head and I come here to confess with y'all so y'all don't make these mistakes. And I was like, okay, wow. One time in a row, let's figure this out. Oh, she's smart because she figured out how to spend time with her man by appreciating what he does and maybe doing it with him. Okay, Maggie. So my man likes Marvel movies. He likes football. When there's football on, I cook whatever he wants. The game could be watching me, but he's here, right? He could be at a sports bar. He could be wherever. Whenever there's a Marvel movie that comes out, he even tested me. He was like, yeah, there's this new Avengers coming out, but you probably don't want to see it. Sure do. When are we going? I will sit there. I have no idea what's going on. I thought this character died 3 movies ago. I don't know, but I'm happy to be there. So ladies, do not talk smack about their hobbies. Again, you will find yourself alone. What would you add, Lucy?
Yeah, and it's kind of switched your perspective of enjoying to see him doing what he loves to do. Because again, there's no better thing than to watch your significant other do something that they love doing. My husband, he loves fixing things. He fixes the washer, the dryer, the dishwasher, anything that's broken. He goes to YouTube, he figures it out, he goes out and does it. He likes to do the backyard. A while back, he was thinking about getting a tractor to do things. And the last thing I want to do is shut down that initiative. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to get a tractor. He's going to work in the backyard. That's great, baby. Let me know if you need anything else on the research about the tractor. Just allow him to be him. Again, give him the freedom to be himself. Because again, a man that feels free to be himself will always want to be in the environment that he's allowed to be that. He's going to come home. He's going to enjoy being with you. He's going to, he's going to give you things all the time because he's paying attention about the things that you like, that you don't like. And he will, again, the other day, my husband, I was doing the dishes and he looks at me and he goes, my job is to make you happy. Oh, that made my day. I'm like, yeah. And that's how men feel. As long as you're happy around them, that's what they want. And why not, as the wife, not want to make him happy as well? He's the king. Are you kidding me?
And reina. Okay, that's queen. Okay, I just totally destroyed it, but the sentiment was there. All right, Mr. Lucy, shout out to you. Okay, let's see what y'all are saying in the chat. Y'all are loving it. Y'all are laughing at me. Coach B says quality time can be fun. Absolutely. Circle back to, I think it was point number 2. Ladies, are you fun or are you a stick in the mud? Cheryl likes football and she's looking for someone who does. I understand. Sometimes the planets don't line up, but when you have the opportunity, ladies, the point is that we don't belittle or talk smack about our man's hobbies. Mega says, my man and I are gamers and we love to play games together. There's a smart one. Clearly, Maggie was a little slow on the giddy up there, but I learned one time in a row. Bert says, let me do my hobbies and I'll let you do your hobbies and we get to be on one accord. How about that? Sounds like a peaceful, happy home. All right, let's go back in.
These are sort of hand in hand. This last one's sort of a double whammy. It's withholding affection or approval and treating their emotions and their feelings and their vulnerabilities like they either don't exist or using them against them. So big piece on the one side is appreciation and affection. I like to say that appreciation is the currency of intimacy in any relationship. Appreciation is the currency of intimacy. So if you want intimacy to flow, to be free, to be connected, to be, really strong between you and your partner, you have to give praise, validation, and affection. A lot of men, again, with this very sort of feminine energy, this sort of fluid, flowy energy that a lot of guys are very attracted to. This shows up when you as a woman are like giving affection, wanting to be close. That can be very enticing and very activating for a lot of guys. Now, on the other side is a man's emotions and feelings. Maybe I should have put this one further up, but here we go. I have heard from a lot of men that when they open up and be vulnerable with the women that they're with, that information, their feelings, their emotions, what they're going through is used against them. Maybe not right there in that moment, but maybe the next day in a conflict or a week later or a month later. And so what can happen relationally is that man will feel emasculated in the sense that he will learn very quickly that it's not safe for him or trusting of him to open up to you, to actually be in a place of being a man who is struggling or having a hard time or wanting to talk to you about some of the issues that are going on in his life, whether it's with his mental health or his business or his career or family or whatever it is. And for a man, that is incredibly challenging because most men want some type of a place where they can land in their relationship and sometimes talk about the issues that they're going through. And to not be treated like they don't have feelings or that their emotions don't matter. The real catch, I remember speaking on a TV show, it was called the TD Jakes Show. This is years ago. It's probably like 2016. And one of the things that he asked me was, how come more men don't open up? How come more men don't share? And I said, well, the reality is that for a lot of guys, they have opened up in a relationship and been burned because the women that they were with couldn't receive that man's emotion. They couldn't hear it. They couldn't hold space for it. They couldn't have a dialogue about it. They just got reactive. They got frustrated. They got defensive. They shut down. They disconnected. They lost interest. They lost connection to him. And so the reality is that a lot of women, I think, underestimate that they might not actually know how to receive or be around a man's emotions. And so we live in this very strange time where so many women are asking men to open up and be more vulnerable and share their emotions and share what's happening inside of them. And the reality is that for a lot of men, their experience has been that when they do that with their female partner shuts down or uses those things against them, as an attack later on, as a character flaw later on. And that is incredibly emasculating. To take the risk as a man to divulge some of that information, to open up, and then to have that used against you at a later date in some conflict or to create some power battle is incredibly emasculating, and it's also very damaging for the relationship. So those are the main pieces. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thank you for sticking it through.
All right, ladies. So let's wrap this up with the last two, and then we'll see what you all say in the chat. So his last two was withholding affection or praise, and then basically when a man does open up to us, using that as weaponizing it again. I'll just say this about the affection piece. Ladies, this is something that should be easy for you to give. It's free. I think it should be constant. I light up. I soften up. I give my man warmth whenever he's around me. I look forward to seeing him. He can hear it in my voice. He can see it on my face. There's nothing wrong with just allowing yourself to be affectionate. I think it's very strange. I'll say this when I see women are very stoic around men. And then, let's say you're an animal lover and you see a turtle and you're just like, oh, baby turtle. I'm like, but why don't you have that same affection, if not more, for a man? So if that's something that you use as a weapon, if you have whatever issue going on that you feel like that's going to show up as weak, you're actually hurting yourself. Men crave that affection from their women. Compliment him. Be soft and tender around him. He will respond to that in a way that I'm sure you will appreciate. And then lastly, the thing about not allowing our men to express themselves. Number one, ladies, men, especially masculine men, the type of men that we want, they're not really touchy-feely and very verbose anyway. So when a man opens up to you and says, I have a concern about anything, my job, the kids, my family, if he says, I'm a little bit nervous or something's been on my mind, and you don't treat that with the most tender of care, that will probably be the last time that he speaks to you about anything else, because it takes a lot for a man to even get to that point where he wants to trust. Usually they're very, nope, I'm fine, power through it. Nothing's wrong with me. That's what they've learned since they were kids, get up, quit your crying, dust it off, walk it off, you'll be all right. So if you think that, again, by shaming men, or like he said, calling that as some type of, there's something wrong with him, the character flaw, men like to solve problems and we like to fix people. Let's face it, ladies, we can't even fix ourselves. You will find yourself repelling the men that you actually want. What would you add, Lucy?
I agree. All that a man that you love wants is for you to show care for him, show him appreciation, thank him for things that he does, watch him do something, and and reward him for it, just with a kind word. Oh my goodness, I love how you fixed the smoke detector alarm that was going on earlier this morning. Just those little things. It doesn't need to be anything outrageous. Just a little thank you to let him know that you appreciate what he's doing for you. And the thing about your man sharing some of those concerns with you, don't ever use that to manipulate the relationship, because that's a manipulation tool. To use that against him later on when he's at when you're either arguing or he's at a weak point and you bring it up to him, that is a recipe for disaster. You do not want to do that ever. So I think that this was I think it was a good live reaction. I think the topics that he shared were pretty timely. They have impacted men and women and all of us. And it's just a refresher course for some of us to just remember those things.
Absolutely. So I'm going to come see what you all say in the chat and then we will close out. But ladies, yes, I would just also add, because men are risk averse by nature, another thing is to keep his privacy and to keep his secrets. A matriarch takes secrets to the grave. So if you want to be, shout out to you, Thane, if you want to be considered a trusting woman, if you want to be considered as someone who is valuable, who will respect the boundaries of what is, not everything is for public consumption, that's really important. All right. So do not go blabbing to your friends or the internet if he's ever revealed anything to you, because that is how you can get yourself cut off permanently. All right, let's see what you all are saying in the chat, and then we will wrap it up. Jürgen said, you will not take his hobbies away from him. We understand. All right. And he also says, I no longer trust modern women for good reason. And this makes me sad, but Man Talks also said that most men have had some type of experience, and they may never tell you, but they have had some type of experience where they tried, and then for whatever reason, it was not respected. The Condemned says, I can't stand when women chastise us for enjoying our hobbies. That makes us happy. I don't know if women understand that it comes off to us as them being miserable, and who wants to be around that? Again, ladies, you're going to get the opposite result. Absolutely. All right, let's see. Bert agrees. Thank you so much. Condemn says, more than enough of us men have learned how many women unfortunately use confidential, personal, vulnerable information as a weapon when their feelings get hurt. And then they will justify doing it. Yes. And ladies, there are some things that you just can't come back from. If you have had poor moral character, if you have been deceptive, if you have been manipulative, if you have lied, if you have been untrusting, you just need to go sit with yourself and figure out how you got here, and don't expect a do-over from that man. Not everything can be fixed. And the Condemn says the chances of us trusting her again after that are next to never. Lady C says this was very resourceful. Thank you. And thank you all for watching. This was a really good one, Lucy. I loved hearing from the men's perspective. We believe that older women should teach the young, but it's definitely great to hear for the men that are still willing to talk to us what we can do to be better for them. So what would you say to close us out, Lucy?
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for just sharing your thoughts and your perspectives. At least it helps me see that side of how you think, how you do things. And I wish more women were able to join us for these discussions, because most of the information that we share is on the woman's perspective, but we do love seeing men giving their side, because that goes back to us women studying you and learning what you like, maybe what you don't like, and then just becoming a better, community and society overall.
Absolutely. So again, oh, thank you. Prima says I needed this. I'm so glad this was helpful. I'll put the video in the chat. This was called What Women Do to Emasculate Men. The name of the channel is Man Talks, and I've linked it in the description. So yes, we believe the internet is forever. So this is our legacy. We want to definitely pay it forward, because Lucy and I are set. We have our relationships, and we are grateful every day for that. And we definitely want you ladies to win as well. So yes, share our content if it's helpful. If you know women maybe who are misguided or brainwashed or not getting the outcomes that they want, maybe they could learn a little something here as we older women are teaching the young. So we are with you all on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We'll be back with another reaction video sometime very soon. Thank you as always for being here. And thank you, Swadi, for the $10 super chat, and for all of you all being so communicative with us. So until next time, adios.
Oh,